Hi, I'm Sue Mills. I'm an indie author writing character-driven love stories set in New England. I'm so glad you've joined Donna and me as we discuss all things bookish.
Hey y'all, I'm Donna Madden. I am the author of sweet yet spicy small town romance. It's great to have you. Come on in and take a seat.
Hey, thanks for joining us on Indie Authors Uncovered. Donna and I are going to talk about all things indie author, and we're just going to kind of introduce ourselves today. So I'll start. Donna, I got some questions for you. And my first one is, did your storyline change significantly from editing suggestions that you got?
Oh, wow. Honestly, probably not, because before I send my books to an editor, I have what I call a beta reader, but it's a really loose beta reader. It's my sister-in-law. I think everyone needs someone who is totally trustworthy and deathly honest. And Tanya is that for me. And before my book even goes to an editor, it has gone back and forth between me and Tanya. And if something's not working right, Tanya, and if she has come to me and asked me a bunch of questions about something, I know I have to go back and redo that. So usually by the time my books hit the editor, all the big stuff has been fleshed out. And all the editor is doing, outside of all the line editing and all the ridiculous comma issues, is focusing on the plot line and the time, and making sure eyes are blue all the way through and the same cars are being driven from word 1,000 to word 70,000. So I've never had huge issues or huge editing issues. Now, what Tanya and I talk about, yeah, it's all over the place and it has to be changed. But that's why, whether you call it a beta reader or just a really good friend who is your person to go to. How about you? When you first started, did you have issues at the editing place, or did you deal with things beforehand?
Well, I wrote for probably close to 2 years before I let anybody read what I had written. And the first girl I had let read it, she was in the process of becoming an indie author. She writes fantasy, and she now actually offers editing services. And yes, so she read it. She was the first person to read it, and told me romance readers were going to throw it in the fire because I didn't have the traditional happy ending or even happy for now for my two main characters in the book. So I ended up, it was actually a pretty lengthy book at that point, and I ended up getting 3 books out of it and doing a happy for now, and then going from there. So yeah, I made a huge change.
But not with an editor. That was with a friend, though, right?
Well, yeah, kind of. There are a few things I've changed. I can't even remember now. My first content edit that I had done, they found fault with something, and I don't remember what it was. But I had also been working with 2 women that we worked as critique partners, the 3 of us together, and they had found fault. And I'm like, this is going to go to editing. And if editing brings up the same thing you're bringing up, then I'll change it. And so she did. And I changed it. And it has something to do with the personality of one of the characters. I had to make him more likable. So that was,
Gotcha.
yeah, that definitely came from editing.
When you choose an editor, do you look for an editor who also mainly reads or edits romance? Because I know in the past, when I first started, I didn't even think about what the editors edited. And I had a fantasy editor. I didn't realize that's who she was. And she was more of a, not just a line edit. She did more than that. And I noticed that she had some issues with things in my book that romance people wouldn't have, but I changed them anyway because I didn't realize she wasn't romance until I really dug into her, into what she does. So do you think that finding an editor who edits and loves your genre is important?
I think it probably is. If they are going to make comments, suggest that you change things, they need to know what the norm is for your genre. I did not specifically look for that. Someone that was in this writing group that I was in briefly mentioned who she used for editing. And I went on their website, and they had probably 4 or 5 content editors and line editors. And I worked with them. I think you could do a sample edit. I don't even think I did the sample edit. And I let them pick. This is what my book's about. So my editors have always been somebody that does read romance. So that kind of fit for me. But yeah, I wouldn't take like somebody that writes thrillers or mystery and want them to
edit your romance.
Edit a romance.
Well, with that part, romance has so many subgenres. Do you consider that yourself a romance writer? And if so, what made you choose the subgenre or genre that you write in?
This is one I've struggled with since I started, because I don't feel like I meet all the romance beats. I don't like the third act breakup, although I have found, oh, Susan, you have written a third act breakup. So in a couple of different books. So I knew the things I didn't want to write. I didn't want to write dark romance. I didn't want to write mafia romance. And so that's just not my thing. I consider my books more love stories than romance, and I consider them more, they've evolved into, I feel like they're more women's fiction than romance necessarily, or literary fiction, which I feel weird having the word literary attributed to my writing, but when you go to publish, you don't have a lot of choices.
Right. I think the same thing. So like literary fiction to me is like Jane Austen and all these things, but it's like, I know that you were talking about you don't hit all the romance beats. And so I was wondering if you would consider yourself women's fiction, or I was like, maybe even some other fiction. I'm like, what fiction is equal, for the men's side of things to women's fiction?
That's a good question.
There needs to be men's fiction. I mean, I don't know.
Right. My husband reads, he reads a lot of mystery. That's more or less what he likes.
Well, men are mysterious, aren't they? So
that is very true.
There you go. But I was wondering about that, because I was like, I know that when we've talked in the past, you've mentioned that, but then you also mentioned that some of your books focus on the men more than the women.
They do.
And it's like, so what do you put them in?
Right. That was kind of an accidental thing. I mean, my women are strong women. Nobody's going to walk over them. And my men are vulnerable. And I've got one book where it's all from the male point of view. It's about him, dealing with a lot of issues that he has. And he's one of my favorite characters. So I don't know where he falls.
Right. And so, if there's women's fiction, why can't there be man's fiction?
Right.
So where do they, that's a good question. We'll have to write that down and research that, because I know there's a lot of times I want my men to be the main part in my romance, small town romance books, but it's usually either 50-50 or it's mainly the woman.
Yeah.
But I'm like, sometimes it's easier for me to write a man. And I think it's because I have three sons and a husband, and women have always irritated me. Because they're, you and I are older now, so we can talk like this, but when teenage girls are backstabbing women.
Oh yeah.
They're difficult.
I have 4 brothers, and I think that's where my liking to write men and the character that dominates one book. He has 2 brothers. I know brothers.
Right.
I know how to write that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Okay. What's been one of your biggest challenges in balancing the business side with the creative side of being an independent author, since we have to do it all?
So I failed miserably at this in the beginning. And because I had no idea what I was doing. And a little over a year ago, I found Emily Hensley of Small Fry Marketing, and that's made a big difference for me, because she does the tech stuff. Really, it just made me want to cry.
Like what?
Oh, anything. Before I published, it's like, oh, you got to have a website, you got to have an email list. So I tried to do, and I had taken a course and it said, I'm not going to name any brands, but anyway, it said, this is a really easy do-it-yourself website. And so I spent like 2 or 3 days trying to figure out how to build a website, and I don't know what I was doing. So then there was a button at the top that said, get help. Yes. So I spent a large sum of money to have them design a website for me. And I got a half-hour lesson in how to update this website, which, as quickly as it came in, and it was gone.
Right.
And even with notes I took, it was gone. And when I started working with that person that was going to build the website, she's like, oh, I'm going to do a Dropbox, and you're just going to do this and this and this into the Dropbox. And I'm like, I've never even heard of a Dropbox. So I spent a week trying to get stuff into this Dropbox and get it to her. I talked to a friend who's quite techie, and didn't get anywhere. And I finally sent her an email, and I said, I told you at the beginning that I'm not real tech savvy, and I have no idea what you are asking me to do. And I know how to send emails. I know how to attach things. Oh, you can send it as an attachment. It was so aggravating. And then actually, when I started working with Emily, it was like, oh, we'll have a shared drive and you can put documents in the drive. And that took me a couple of days and made me want to cry. But I finally figured it out, and I'm pretty good at it now. So the tech side is definitely such a frustration for me. And finding time for everything, I still fail miserably at it. And I don't even work full time.
Well,
I don't know how you do it.
I don't, which is why I've been doing it for 2 years and I'm still where I am. But that's one thing I've always said. I just want to write, and I need someone else to do all the rest. But we know we need to have social media presence. We need to have the website, which, like you, I have wasted so much money trying to figure it out, trying to take the courses. And now I have Emily also, who does it. And if I can't make something work, or I see something wrong, I just say, hey, this is not working, and it's all on her. And yeah. I love that. And she's so nice. We'll plug her real quick. She's awesome. Yeah. She's wonderful. And I just want to write. It's a miracle that I figured out KDP like I did.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of money with another marketing agency to do that. And so she walked me through the first upload, but it cost me a lot of money to do that. So, at least I had someone there because I put my books on KDP and Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark, though, I have learned to wait until I know 100% I don't have to do any more changes, because they charge you after 6 months to re-upload, which I think is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So anyway, So yes, this is why you and I get along, because we have all the same issues and tech issues. Finding microphones to do a podcast is an issue.
And my lighting's not real great, but it's going to get better.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you ever consider trad publishing?
Yes, I did. But, when I started doing this was in 2019, I started writing, and then I was like, okay, 2020, I finished my book. When I was looking, and I over-researched. My husband has, always jokes, if I buy a vacuum, he knows I spent a year researching that vacuum before I spend the money. So when I was researching and trying to figure out how to do this, when I realized that looking for an agent might take a year or two, finding an agent and then getting them to get your manuscript ready to go, and then finding a publisher and then getting your stuff published, that could take a 4 or 5 year journey. I was 50 when I started this journey. I'm 54 now, getting ready to be 55. I don't have 5 years to wait for one book to come out. So that's what during all that research, I found indie publishing. And I realized a lot of the big, at the time, 5 years ago, a lot of the big contemporary small town romance authors were indie published. And I didn't know that. They were so big. I just thought that they were just normal, real publishers. They are now, because they got picked up, by different publishers because they were so big. So I'm like, I'll do this, and maybe one day I'll get picked up because the right person will read my books. So, but yeah, I did. But indie was the way I could get my books out into readers now. How about you?
More or less the same. I had no idea when I started if I was going to publish. I don't even know if I knew indie. I knew indie publishing existed, but I had no idea how to get started in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I joined a writing group briefly, and they talked about indie publishing and said, why would you go any other way? And, this way you get to keep the money yourself. And, yeah, boy, I'm keeping so much money.
So far, right?
Right. And then there's a favorite author of mine who has talked about she was trad published and she did some indie at the same time, and she had problems and, eventually got the rights back to her book. And she writes a pretty lengthy series. She had to change the name of the series for the second half of it because it had a conflict with her traditionally published books. So that gave me pause. And then I'm a lot more than 50. And I thought, I've got all these ideas for books. I don't have time to get 100 rejection letters over a year or two before somebody picks me up. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to go it on my own and hope for success. I will confess, I feel like trad publishing has a bit more legitimacy to it.
Right.
And so sometimes I feel like I'm not legit. I'm not a legit writer. In spite of all the time I spend at it. So I'm working on getting over that. But,
and I think that's a big thing for most indies, because that's what keeps me from really telling everyone who I know personally that I'm writing, because, who publishes you? Myself. Now I do a lot of vendor events and I willingly tell people there, but yet they're strangers. And if they don't want my book, I don't want them to have my book. Right. If that's going to turn them away, then don't have it. But when it's friends or someone going to judge you for that, that's something totally different.
Yeah.
Okay. What's one piece of advice you wish you'd received when you got started?
I wish that I kept it secret for a long time. And I wish that I had let people know earlier that I was writing. That I was embarrassed, or I don't know what it was. So I wish I wish I had been more open and sought out other writers earlier than I did. How about you?
One piece of advice I would have gotten was probably, I can't do it all. You have to give it up. Find your talent. And what I like to do is TikTok and write. I don't like to do anything else. I don't mind, writing an email, but I need someone to tell me to do it. So finding someone, spending the money to find an assistant, a marketing person, and I just found Emily a few months ago, and she does my covers, and she's that person that I can go to and text if I have a question. And now she does more. I wish I would have spent that money wisely in the beginning instead of trying to spend money on stuff to do it myself.
Right. And actually, it's interesting because this little writing group that I was in briefly, one of the women that came to one or two of our meetings said the best thing she ever did was hire a personal assistant. And the personal assistant does her newsletter, because she said, I hate doing newsletters. Now, this is before I was very far into the process at all. Right. And I thought, how bad can that be? Very bad. So, it's like, yeah, she said, if I can give, because she was published at that point and the rest of us were not. And she said, if I can give you one piece of advice, hire a personal assistant as soon as you can.
Well, there you go. And took us a while.
Let's see. I think that was at the end of 2021, and it took me until 2024 to heed that advice. But yeah, that was a good one.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
I got one for you. Did you know how your story was going to end when you started writing?
Which story? Any of them?
Well, like your first one.
No. Which is why the ending was so bad, and I had to redo it because I had no clue where I was going. Okay. And I mean, I knew what I wanted to say, but my first book, I was just writing it because I wanted to write it. And I had no clue where I was going. Compare that to 7 books later. And Like the book I just finished, I knew what I wanted to happen because I write romance, so I need that happily ever after. And I needed to, I knew where I wanted it to happen. I just didn't know how it would. But at least now I have the beginning, the conflict, the middle, somewhat of a solution of the conflict, and then the ending to get to that happily ever after. So I sort of have it mapped out. I still like the story to go where it does because it will anyway. But yeah, the first one, I had nothing mapped out. I just wrote.
Yeah.
And then I had to go back and redo the whole ending because I was like, this isn't really ended. Like you said, there was no happily ever after.
Yeah.
And in there, she was between two guys the entire time and it never finished. So now it sort of does. There's sort of an ending. How about you?
I didn't. I had this idea for a second chance romance, batting itself around my mind for years before I started. And then when COVID came along, my work hours changed. I worked more compressed hours, and I was home in the afternoon. It's like, what am I going to do? Well, you know what? I'm just going to write. And I had no idea how it was going to end. If this couple was actually going to that reunited was actually going to stay together. I had no idea if I was going to try to publish it. No clue. And I found out I like writing. Very unexpected. I did not expect that at all. So
Very good. What keeps you motivated to keep going?
liking the writing. I just like that a lot. I've got all these story ideas, and I wake up at 2 a.m. and I go, oh, I want to do this and I want to do this. And I have a lot of moments where I think, am I just spinning my wheels? Am I going to get anywhere with this?
Well, and it's not a cheap hobby, so
Yeah.
it's like, I want to make it a job. I want to make it, money making. And until it's not, it's a hobby, and it's a very expensive hobby.
It certainly is. And I want to, I work, so I worked a job for 40 years. I retired 4 years ago, and I spent about a year doing nothing. We traveled a lot. I wrote a lot. Writing is great for, if you're going to travel, writing is a great thing because you can, I did a lot on my iPad and my phone because I used to write in Google Docs. So after a year, I started working 3 nights a week at a hotel, which works out well when it's not busy because I can take my laptop and I can write there. And I enjoy it. It's something I always thought I would like to do, but I've done it for 3 years now, and I really like it. If the writing became a moneymaker, so I could stop that.
So true.
But it is an expensive hobby, but it's fun. I like it, and I've met some nice people and things like that.
Very
do you
good.
have a favorite character in Orlinda Valley?
Oh, that's a hard one because, it depends. Honestly, it depends on the book I'm writing. But whenever I'm writing the book I'm writing, I love those characters, which leads me to my first book is about Cora and Kai. I love Cora because she is a sassy woman who doesn't need a man, and she's just tired of the games men play. So she's just happy being herself and being a teacher in her hometown and just doing her own thing until she meets Kai. And Kai's one of my favorite guy characters. And I can say that for a fact now because I just finished writing my 4th book, and we see Cora and Kai in it a lot. And just how Kai has grown from a past of a very bad past and a very bad family life. And he has found the family he has, and watching him grow into book 4. And I can't say anything else about that. But so Cora and Kai are my favorite characters and probably my favorite couple, as long as I don't think too hard about it, because then I can go into every couple and why I love them. But that's one of those hard things as a writer, we write our books because we love our characters, and they become real to me. It's like, I know Cora and Kai and Jameson and Lily and Summer and Rowan and everybody else, I know them. But Cora and Kai right now have to be my favorites. But that'll change tomorrow.
I am reading your first book in the series, and I can't come up with the title. But
No one but you. No one but you.
Yes. So I like Kai, and I can see that. I mean, I haven't gotten to know the other characters well enough yet.
I didn't give any spoilers, did I?
I think so. I mean, it's pretty apparent that
Right?
Cora and Kai are probably going to end up together.
I mean, it's a romance. It's supposed to be that way.
Unless you have a big twist there.
No.
Yeah, which is what I did. I was thinking about this morning, knowing that we were going to talk, and I thought, oh, God, my path, my roadmap is like all over the place.
So how about you? I think I know who your favorite character is, but how about you? Who's your favorite character?
It's probably Sam. He's the male part of the second chance romance, and he's very vulnerable. He's the one that has two brothers, and I like him a lot. I like all my characters, as you say. As I'm writing it, I fall in love with them, and I've written a few characters that I don't like, and they're meant not to be liked.
Right.
So, yeah.
But that's funny that because I think we write the same way, where our characters, they don't just disappear after their book is gone. They keep, like in mine, the characters are in all of them. I think your characters come back throughout some of them. Well, I know Sam does.
Sam comes back. Let's see. Sam is in book 1, 2, 3, 4.
So he's around for a while.
Yeah, he comes back. He makes like kind of cameo appearances,
right?
In some of them.
But I like that, especially when I like a character. And right now I'm reading your first book, and I like Sam. Yeah, I want to punch somebody else, but I like Sam. And but like you said, it's like I enjoy having characters that people don't like, because that means I'm writing them correctly. If you don't like them, you're not supposed to like them. And then I always have a book where my goal is to make that character grow and change and become likable.
Yeah.
And if I can get you to, oh my gosh, I love that character now, then I am a pretty decent writer if I can get people to like that. You go from books hating this character, and I have a character in Orlinda Valley, which people are like, oh, he's such a jerk. Yeah, well, you're going to be surprised. And that's all I can say. But,
Yeah. And I like writing, I like reading series. I have a favorite author who writes long series. She's got one series that is 27 books long. And I've actually got the newest book in my Kindle. And I will admit, I'm not going to mention her name, because I think she's come to the end of the road with that series. It's getting a little repetitive, but she's got other series starting. There's another series that's probably in the 20s, and that one, it still holds my interest, and I love revisiting those characters. Whereas another favorite author of mine is, and I will mention her name, is Ellen Hildebrand, and all of her books. She's written 30 books. Primarily, she had 3 that were set in the Caribbean, but other than that, they were all set on Nantucket.
Yeah,
and for the first probably 12 books, nobody ever ran into anybody that they knew. Nantucket is not that big an island.
How does that happen? Right.
Yeah. Eventually, she started having, like, the police chief would be in several of the books, or she did have a little bit of, not a lot, but a little bit of repetition. And so that made sense to me, but they were all completely standalone. Nobody ever ran into anybody they knew. I went to Nantucket with a friend of mine whose daughter lives down there, and she used to live there for like 3 days. And we ran into people. She hasn't lived there in probably 15 years. And we ran into people all the time that she knew. So,
oh my goodness. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's why, as a big, huge small town romance reader, that's what I love to read, because I love small towns, whether it's in the South or the North or out West. Small towns are just fun, because everyone wants to live in a small town because people know you. So then when I read small town romances like that it's like, okay, this book's about this couple, and then this book's about their brother, but we never even hear of this couple again. I'm like, okay, stop. How is that possible? Because it's a small, everyone knows everybody.
Yeah.
So that's why in my book, I like to say that they're closely interconnected, because you're not going to get rid of the couple. And then you also get to see the couple from the first book, in the side stories, their relationships growing. Maybe they're, getting married, or maybe they're having a baby, and that's part of it, because as a reader, you're invested in all these characters, and hopefully I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But like you do the same thing, because you revisit past characters and past situations, and as a reader, we like that.
Yeah.
I think.
I do. Definitely. Definitely.
Okay. Well, I think we went through all of our questions plus some.
I think we did. I think we did.
Well, this was fun, Sue. Thank you for talking, and I look forward to doing this once a week with you. It'll be good.
Yes. Hopefully people that are interested in writing, the writing process, whether you want to be an author or not, if you want a peek inside under the covers, that's what we're going to give you.
Absolutely. And if you like this and you want more, leave a comment, like it.
Yeah.
Tell everybody, so that way we can do this some more.
Right.
Have a wonderful day, Sue.
See you next week.
Yep.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Indie Authors Uncovered, brought to you by Small Fry Marketing, your single source for affordable marketing solutions. Visit us at smallfrymarketing.com.